What's up guys, CJ here, and welcome back to our first in a brand new series of Game of Thrones videos. I've been looking forward to potentially making Game of Thrones videos for a long time, and we figured a great place to kick off our Game of Thrones coverage would be to recap the previous seasons, leading up to the debut of Season 7 in just 12 days. Whether you're new to the show or a junkie like me, if there's one thing that can be said about the Song of Ice and Fire series, there are a ton of moving parts. It can be incredibly tough, even week to week, keeping track of the storylines, the characters, their backgrounds, their family tree, who their grandfather was, they're the bastard son and lover of who, all of that stuff that goes into a single Game of Thrones episode, but that's where we come in. Needless to say, there will be spoilers in this video, but hopefully this new series gets you all the info you need to know in time for the new season. So without further ado, let's get started. First, a basic primer on the world of Game of Thrones. The series takes place in a world where, for some reason, some unknown past event has dramatically altered the way seasons work. Rather than how they work in our world, lasting only a few months at a time in pretty normal intervals, in this world, a single season can span years, or even decades in extreme cases, and they don't seem to follow any noticeable pattern. A winter might last 10 years, a summer only 2 or 3, or vice versa. The show, like the book series it adapts, follows the points of view of multiple characters. Predominantly, though, the series follows House Stark, one of the most powerful noble families in the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. The current Stark roster is headed by Lord Eddard Ned Stark, his wife Catelyn Tully, and their children Robb, Sansa, Bran, Arya, Rickon, and Ned's bastard son Jon Snow. When Season 1 begins, we find a relatively peaceful time for the family and the kingdom, really. I mean, they're smack in the middle of the longest summer anyone can remember. Winter is a distant memory, the rebellion is 20 years behind them, but this peace is interrupted when the kingdom's politics reach the Starks' northern home of Winterfell. Ned's oldest friend and ally, King Robert Baratheon, comes knocking with an offer. His previous hand, or chief advisor, Jon Arryn, is dead, and to replace him, Robert hopes that he can convince Ned to leave the Starks' isolated ancestral seat of power and come with him to the capital city of King's Landing. Ned is torn on this. He feels like he needs to stay at home, but at the urging of his wife that it's his duty to serve the king, he agrees to go. Plus, as part of a deal, Sansa would marry the king's son, Prince Joffrey, which sounds great on paper, Crusader King style, but really, Joffrey is a huge dick. What really sways Ned to accept the offer, though, is a message from Catelyn's sister, Lysa Tully, who is married to the now dead Jon Arryn, and she claims that the Lannisters, another powerful house, and actually the family of Robert's queen, Cersei, killed Jon Arryn and now plot openly against the king. So Ned decides to accept the offer, but as he's set to leave, tragedy strikes when his son Bran, an avid climber, is paralyzed after a fall. I say fall because he did, but really he was pushed out of a tower in the castle by Jaime Lannister, the queen's brother and a knight of the king's personal guard known as the King's Guard, after the young boy discovered the two, shacking up. With Bran still in a coma after his fall, the family goes its separate ways. While Catelyn, Robb, and Rickon stay at Winterfell, Ned, Sansa, and Arya head to King's Landing. Jon, feeling like he'll never fit in with the family, strikes out on his own, deciding to join the Night's Watch and journeying to the Wall to join up. More on his story in a minute. In King's Landing, Ned chafes against the subversive and shadowy life of politics, but he sticks it out due to his ultimate goal, learning the truth behind Jon Arryn's death. With a little bit of luck and some help from Robert's master of coin, Peter Baelish, he uncovers a massive secret. You see, Jaime and Cersei weren't just hooking up that one time, that had been going on for decades. And the 3 kids Robert and Cersei have, Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen, are actually all Jaime's. Yikes. Events accelerate rapidly as while tensions rise between the Lannisters and Starks. The king is suspiciously mortally wounded while on a hunting expedition, and after he dies, Ned is to rule until Joffrey comes of age, but Peter Baelish, Cersei, and the Boy King disregard this order and take Ned prisoner. This inspires Robb to summon his banners, raising an army to march on King's Landing to try and force his father's release. But this comes too late, as in the season's biggest heel turn, Joffrey refuses to spare Ned's life despite the advice of literally all of his council members and orders him beheaded. In the wake of this, Arya escapes to the north, heading for Winterfell. Sansa is still held captive by Joffrey as his betrothed, and Robb is proclaimed king in the north by his bannermen, taking Jaime Lannister hostage in a decisive victory at Catelyn Stark's ancestral home, the Tully Castle of Riverrun. Meanwhile, far to the north, the Wall is a massive, wall stretching from the east coast of Westeros to the west, and magically imbued, the structure was built to keep the north and really the rest of the Seven Kingdoms safe from the White Walkers, these horrific zombie-like creatures that seasonally terrorized the continent thousands of years before. Guarding the Wall, the Rangers of the Night's Watch stand as really the only line of defense between the Seven Kingdoms and the forces of the Night's King, and despite this massive job, the Order has basically fallen into disrepair, with dwindling numbers and a lack of new recruits as the threat of the White Walkers has more or less faded into legend. Though talented and already well-trained, Jon initially struggles to fit in, and after the death of his father, he strongly considers breaking his vow to return to his brother Robb's aid. However, he ultimately chooses to stay, making a name for himself in the Watch and earning the respect of the Lord Commander Jeor Mormont, who gifts him with the Mormont family sword, Longclaw. Meanwhile, across the Narrow Sea on the continent of Essos, the last surviving members of House Targaryen, Daenerys and Viserys, live in exile. Their father, the Mad King Aerys II, was killed by Jaime Lannister during Robert's Rebellion nearly 20 years earlier. Ever since, they've been on the run, as agents of the king have hunted them down, believing them to be a threat to return and reclaim their throne basically by just existing. But he's not wrong. Viserys is seeking to amass an army to do just that, and marries off his sister to Khal Drogo, the leader of a large army of nomadic horse-riding warriors known as the Dothraki. Daenerys struggles with this arrangement. I mean, in this first season, she's still a young teenager, but she actually quickly adapts to life as the queen of the Dothraki, learning their language, given a gift of 3 seemingly dormant dragon eggs, and escaping her abusive brother after Drogo kills him, eventually, over time, falling in love with the great Khal and becoming pregnant with his son. Unfortunately, this whirlwind romance doesn't last, as Drogo's wounded in battle after dueling an insubordinate soldier, and after improper treatment by a witch whose village the Dothraki had sacked, he becomes sick and very quickly is right near death. Desperate, Daenerys convinces the witch to perform a dark ritual to bring him back, and despite paying a steep price and sacrificing their child, Drogo does return to life in a catatonic state. He's essentially now dead to the world, and with his great horde long gone, Daenerys smothers him to death with a pillow. So, all that she cared about gone, she prepares to commit suicide by joining Drogo in his funeral pyre. She enters the flames with her dragon eggs, only to emerge unscathed, and with the eggs hatched into 3 dragons, the first seen in the world in hundreds of years. And that just about does it for Game of Thrones Season 1. We should have another one of these videos up in the next few days, but let me know what you thought in the comment section down below, and what your favorite moment of the first season was. That's gonna do it for me here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like if you like what you saw, subscribe for more great content every single day, and consider turning on your notifications to be alerted every time we upload a new video. Signing off, this is CJ, and I'll see you next time.